Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell here, and there have been some new statements made recently by Employment Minister Carla Qualtrough about the EI program and certain delays to certain changes in that program. Now, even if you're somebody who's never been on EI, isn't going to be on EI in the future, this is still going to be an interesting video for you because it has some implications for a UBI or a Universal Basic Income here in Canada. Many Canadians believe that a UBI, and we're going to talk about this more throughout this video, could come into Canada through some pre-existing programs like the Employment Insurance Program. But now these statements that Carla Qualtrough has made, well, it's revealing a little bit more about how likely that is to happen and some potential roadblocks and some timelines that I think you might find interesting. To give a little bit of context, before the most recent budget that was released on April 19 was released, many people thought that there could be changes, major changes, to the employment insurance program that could look a little bit like a universal basic income. People thought this because Carla Qualtrough, in a committee meeting in the House of Commons, well, she said, hey, we've got some big news on EI, but I don't want to sort of scoop my boss, Chrystia Freeland, and sort of tell you here. So that sort of got people's expectations up a little bit that there could be some UBI in the budget, and as well as some major changes to EI, but we didn't actually see anything like that, any sort of language of a universal basic income or any big changes that were revealed through this budget. But these comments actually reveal some of the reasons that this may not be happening as quickly as some people would like. Now let me show you this. This is inside of the budget, and it's called Modernizing Critical IT Infrastructure. Now, most people would just glaze over this because it is a big block of text about IT infrastructure, right? Doesn't sound all that interesting, but when you take a little bit of a closer look, it does provide some hints. I'll scroll in here a little bit for you. Budget 2021 proposes to provide a total of $648 million on a cash basis to Employment and Social Development Canada and the Treasury Board Secretariat over the next 7 years, starting in 2021-2022, to continue implementing benefit delivery modernization, invest in Service Canada's IT systems and related activities, and support service delivery to Canadians going forward. Now, let's break down what that means a little bit, right? So they're saying, hey, we're going to give this section of the government, Employment Insurance and Social Development Canada, $650 roughly million over the next 7 years to upgrade their tech systems, right? If you're anyone who's been on any of these benefits, the CRB, that's not through Service Canada, but similar, or EI handled through Service Canada, well, you'll know that there have been some major problems when it comes to the rollout of this tech. Many people having problems applying, having to call in and talk to a live person. Well, in the modern day and age, we should be able to get this stuff automated and sorted out, and that's likely what they're trying to do here. Now, the thought is, again, based on these comments, that this could be transitioning into a system that could handle a larger and more revamped system. Let me show you exactly what was included in Carla Qualtrough's most recent statement. This is from an interview that the Canadian press likely did with Carla Qualtrough, and it's run here on Global. But they say Employment Minister Carla Qualtrough said there is need to first update aging technological infrastructure before any changes to EI can take effect. She also said that the review will focus on thorny policy issues, with gig or self-employed workers being the thorniest of all. Now, this is in reference to another thing that was included here in the budget, and I'll show you it right here. I think I have it up here. Yeah, they say that they're going to have forthcoming consultations on future long-term reforms to EI, right? So this is more of a $5 million support for them to actually take a look at the employment insurance program and figure out what they actually want to do with it, how they want to change it to support different individuals, whether or not they want to expand it to more people like gig workers, people who are self-employed. This is what she's referring to, right? They have a lot of tricky policy decisions to make going forward that are going to impact these social safety net programs. Many people are calling the future of a potential UBI, right? Encompassing all of these sort of social programs that aren't really fit for today's modern world. Carla Qualtrough continues saying we can't do everything at once in an interview, adding it's not as simple as snapping your fingers to create a utopian EI system. There are all these other considerations that we have to take into account, she says. And now the article goes on to say the government has spent years trying to figure out how to adapt the EI program to modern realities with a rapid growth in the gig economy. There were about 1.7 million gig workers in 2016, a 70% jump from a decade earlier, according to Stats Canada. Now, we're just seeing the census go out out for 2021 here, so we're likely going to get new data on this, and it seems there's so many more people that aren't supported adequately by long-term jobs anymore, right? We're heading into this gig work society even more with the implementation of AI and more advanced artificial intelligence to take these more these jobs that are more able to be done by computers faster, quicker, and better, right? We need to figure out how we can transition our social programs to actually support Canadians who may not be able to work those jobs that they were previously working. And what's particularly frustrating is that this has actually been looked at for a while. They say here an April 2018 presentation by the Employment and Social Development Canada suggested preparing for labor force changes should consider a large-scale expansion of both labor market and social supports and eligibility for benefits if the gig economy became the new normal. So this is all about gig economy, but I think you're going to find this last little statement in the article interesting here. They say it suggested officials start thinking about how to overhaul income support programs, including the possibility of a universal or means-tested delivery scheme to guarantee a minimum standard of living. Now that sounds a lot like a universal basic income, a guaranteed livable wage, right? People use these different words to describe similar programs, but that's what piqued my interest here, and that's what I thought you would find the most interesting. So to break it down even further, we've got a couple things going on here, right? We have $650 million over 8 years going to them to upgrade their tech services. Apparently, based on my research, their code in the actual system for the employment insurance dole-out, as well as old age security and all of these other Canadian supports, well, it was written in the 1960s, the computer code for these programs. So definitely due for an update. And they're also doing this 2-year consultation on what a future EI program might look like. Now, this is definitely frustrating for some people who want to see changes to this program and new programs brought in the future. Well, it might be a little bit frustrating to them hearing, okay, we have this 2-year timeline to look at this data, as well as a 7+ year timeline to upgrade the systems to make these systems actually function in a way that would make it actually plausible to bring in any sort of new programs, new UBIs, right? Any kind of program like this. It's frustrating, but it also gives us clues as to when we could actually see this happening, right? We saw that policy summit, or that policy convention for the Liberals, where they overwhelmingly voted in favor of some sort of universal basic income on 3 different motions. We covered that here on the channel, so that was interesting to note, but it seems like, well, we don't even have the tools right now to efficiently dole out a program like this. So this is another roadblock for the people who are in support of this program for this to actually roll out. You just think of all of the troubles with fraud and the troubles with people applying when they shouldn't have been, or people not being able to apply when they should have been for various programs like the CERB or the CRB, the CRCB, even the EI program, right? There have been a lot of struggles, and right now there's lots of people who are waiting either between transitioning from EI to CRB, or they were asked to verify their documents with the CRB, and they were sort of cut off from their benefits. Well, if we were to have a larger system here in Canada that sort of lumped all these together, well, we'd certainly need to make sure that it was actually a functioning and well-operated system, so we wouldn't just have random spurts where tons of Canadians wouldn't be able to access the support that they would likely become dependent on. And it raises an interesting debate, right? Should we take action to make changes more quickly without actually doing the research to make sure we have the tools implemented before we try to actually roll out a system like this, right? It's an interesting debate. Should we act first and then fix the mistakes later, or should we make sure we have things sorted before something like this were to roll out? It's a question that we have to ask, and as you know on this channel, I like to stay right in the middle when it comes to these issues, but one thing that I will say for certain is that the devil is in the details. I say that all the time here. Even if there was a perfect program announced, well, we'd need to know exactly how this is going to roll out. Is this going to be more targeted to certain individual groups? How exactly is this going to work? How are the applications going to work? How are things going to be rolled out? There's just so many question marks right now, and I think we need to look forward to the future to see what the political policies from these different political parties are really going to be around this before we have any better idea on how this is actually going to pan out. And with that said, I'm really curious about what you think on this issue. Do you think that the EI program should be instantly reformed and they should just make all of these decisions, or do you think it's smart that they're doing this sort of 2-year timeline, a longer timeline to change all of the tech? What do you think? Do you think that we should just lump all of these social programs into one universal basic income? Many people believe that that could lower costs for the administration of a program like this. There are a lot of different opinions. Lots of people think it's a great idea. Some people think it's awful. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I try to read as many as I possibly can and respond to a whole bunch too. And while you're down there, make sure to check out the link in the description to the Canada Money Mastery Program, 45% off with coupon code INVEST. That's a constantly growing program with course members inputting on what different things they want to see in the course. There's already 10 to 20 hours of content in there, so check it out, see if it's a good fit for you. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.
This channel is supported by viewers like you. Thanks, channel members.